Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to welcome you to this session, showcasing reforms to promote SDG investment, experiences from Côte d'Ivoire and Ecuador. I would like to start by expressing our very deep appreciation to the government of Côte d'Ivoire and the government of Ecuador for having responded positively to UNCTAD's invitation to participate in the 7th World Investment Forum. For the participants following the live streaming of the event, thank you for being with us. You have the possibility to ask questions by simply adding them to the chat on the right of your screen. My role as moderator will be to facilitate the session, the transition between speakers, and the interaction with the participants. Kindly note that at 18:30 Geneva time, the live streaming will stop. We need to respect the schedule. We will open the session with some remarks from Mr. Jörg Weber, who is head of the Investment Policies branch at UNCTAD. Jörg, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chantal. Good afternoon, good evening, and in some cases, good morning. Excellence, Monsieur Patrick Jérôme Hachi, Premier ministre, chef du gouvernement de la Côte d'Ivoire. Excellence, Monsieur Emmanuel Essis, ministre auprès du Premier ministre, en charge de la promotion de l'investissement privé en Côte d'Ivoire. Excellentissimo Dr. Julio José Prado Lucio Parades, ministro de Producción, Comercio Exterior, Inversiones y Pesca, Ecuador. Excelentísima señora Lorena Conans, viceministra de Exportaciones y Promoción de Inversiones, Ecuador. Et Madame Solange Amicia, directrice générale, Centre de Promotion des Investissements en Côte d'Ivoire. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. C'est un grand honneur de vous souhaiter la bienvenue à cette session qui se tient dans le cadre du 7e Forum mondial des investissements organisé par la CNUSET. Es un honor darles la bienvenida a esta sesión que se celebra en el marco del 7º Foro Mundial de Inversiones de la UNCTAD. Investment policy reforms, anchored in principles guided by sustainable development, are at the heart of any strategy to promote economic recovery and build forward better. They are also at the core of the discussions at this 7th World Investment Forum. It is therefore a great pleasure for us to be able to inform and enrich these discussions taking place all around us based on the concrete initiatives of reforming the investment framework of 2 countries, with whom we have had the honor and indeed the pleasure to cooperate in the recent past in the context of our investment policy review work, which is headed by Chantal. Côte d'Ivoire, where we have carried out an investment policy review, and Ecuador, where we have just completed an implementation report. As you probably know, UNCTAD's investment policy reviews are one of our most successful technical assistance programs conducted in more than 55 economies so far. They provide country-specific and action-oriented recommendations that are anchored in sustainable development principles, based on UNCTAD's investment policy framework for sustainable development. In many countries, we collect these data, show that IPRs have contributed to policy reforms, they have contributed to improved investment climates, and they have indeed contributed to increased investment flows and generated development impact therefrom in terms of job creation, increased tax revenues, and subsequently contributed to poverty reduction. Allow me hence to thank the governments of Côte d'Ivoire and Ecuador for the trust they placed in UNCTAD's technical assistance programs, and to reiterate our commitment to accompany the respective reform process still going on in the 2 countries. Excellencies, distinguished participants. Last year, severely hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, global foreign direct investment flows fell by 35% to reach an estimated 1.9 trillion, the lowest level since 2005. Global trends mask national and regional differences, and while most countries have been affected by the downturn, The degree to which this has happened impacted and sort of affected countries varies a great deal. In Côte d'Ivoire, for instance, foreign direct investment inflows, which had been on an upward trend since 2012, declined to 509 million in 2020, from a high of 936 million in 2019. While in Ecuador, inflows remain stable at around 1 billion. While a recovery of global investment flows is expected, significant regional differences and uncertainty will persist, both in terms of the timing and the strength of the recovery, especially in developing countries. As reported in UNCTAD's World Investment Report and our just released Global Investment Trends Monitors, the recovery in FDI flows will be rather uneven. Furthermore, because the pandemic severely impacted investment in sectors which are key to achieving the SDGs, such as infrastructure, health, or food and agriculture, all of them registering double-digit declines in percentage points, the challenges facing developing countries have multiplied, have increased. To fully embrace the recovery and promote the type of FDI or foreign direct investment that will foster sustainable and inclusive development, countries must continue improving their investment environment. In this regard, let me now turn to some of the country-specific issues addressed in the investment policy reviews of Côte d'Ivoire and in the implementation report of Ecuador. First, Côte d'Ivoire. Solid economic performance and ambitious reform agenda fueled the prolonged increase in FDI that preceded the pandemic. And while FDI is geographically concentrated around Abidjan, it has targeted a wide range of economic activities in different segments of the value chain. Notably, some enterprises have reached a stage of sophistication that enables them to conceptualize new products and to undertake research and development activities locally, which represents, of course, an important step towards positioning the country as a hub for the regional and the global market. In addition to promoting the adoption of a legal and institutional framework that will further support the country's competitiveness, the policy review, our policy review, recommended reforms to foster a more balanced deployment of new investments throughout the country, not always concentrated on the capital region. Increase the value addition of the investment that comes into the country and support the integration of foreign investors with local businesses. And to meet these ambitious objectives, we have stressed that key challenges need to be addressed, in particular three. With respect to infrastructure, significant investments took place over the last decade, but more is needed for infrastructure quality to match the country's ambitions, and indeed also to encourage investors to move beyond Abidjan. Further skill development is also a prerequisite to enhancing innovative capacity and to promote activities with higher value addition. Skill development is indeed key to get local enterprises moving up the value chain. Finally, large modern companies coexist with small and often informal entities, and entrepreneurship is often viewed as a last resort activity. Strategic and institutional actions are required to encourage potential young entrepreneurs to establish their businesses and engage with the economy on a formal level and also engage with foreign investors on a formal level. We look forward to hearing from you now in this session on the reforms undertaken so far to address these issues. Quickly, let me now turn to Ecuador, where the IPR was concluded many, many years ago. It was indeed among the first ones published by UNCTAD. Since then, many things have changed in the world with respect to investment policy making and, of course, for the Ecuadorian economy, as highlighted in the implementation report, which we just published. Ecuador has seen its annual FDI inflows double since the early 2000s, but its FDI attraction performance has remained below that of most regional comparators. And flows are largely concentrated in a few natural resources activities. After several years of inconsistent policy signals affecting the country's competitiveness and, of course, its capacity to attract investment, the authorities have now initiated coherent reforms aimed at strengthening the institutions, fostering the competition regime, and developing infrastructure and expanding market access. All of this faring very well for the country's attractiveness for foreign investment. Our implementation report stresses the importance for the government of Ecuador to implement launched and planned reforms and to take new initiatives to further enhance the overall competitiveness of the country. Again, let me summarize those in three main issues. First, improving the investment policy regime and developing an overall strategy to promote investment. In this respect, the envisaged development of a national investment policy by the government is a very welcome initiative. Second, strengthening entrepreneurship with a view to enhance the domestic private sector by supporting competitiveness and building entrepreneurial skills. And third, utilizing the tools of the new industrial revolution to enhance the digitalization of government services and simplify business procedures. UNCTAD, again, as in the case of Côte d'Ivoire, stands ready to help you with implementing further reforms, and we do have some products and services that may be drawn upon in this regard. Ladies and gentlemen, the crisis we have been going through for almost 2 years now has highlighted the need to strengthen the resilience of supply chains, to align production system with the country's strategies and potential, and to integrate the sustainability imperative. In their investment climate reforms, governments should not lose sight of the fact that producers will look at diversifying the sources of supply, at adopting more flexible business models, and to move production quickly if needed, and at focusing on proximity and regional diversification when strengthening production capacities. Allow me to close by reiterating our sincere gratitude once again to the government of Côte d'Ivoire and the government of Ecuador for having accepted to participate in this event and share their reform experiences with the audience of the World Investment Forum. We are all looking very much forward to hear from you. Nous nous réjouissons de poursuivre notre coopération pour la prochaine phase des réformes dans vos deux pays et espérons sincèrement que nos rapports vous aideront à atteindre vos objectifs et à contribuer au développement durable de vos économies. Esperamos continuar nuestra cooperación para la próxima fase de los exámenes de la política de inversión en ambos países y esperamos sinceramente que nuestros informes puedan ayudar al alcance de sus objetivos y contribuyan al desarrollo sostenible de sus economías. I wish you a very fruitful meeting and I'm looking very much forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Jörg, thank you very much for your remarks. J'ai maintenant l'honneur d'inviter son Excellence, Monsieur Esmaël Emmanuel Essis, ministre auprès du Premier ministre chargé de la promotion de l'investissement privé en Côte d'Ivoire, à prendre la parole. Monsieur le ministre, vous êtes en ligne.
Merci beaucoup. Madame la secrétaire générale, Monsieur le directeur de la division de l'investissement et des entreprises, distingués et honorables participants, l'honneur me choisit ce jour de m'exprimer au nom de son Excellence, Monsieur le Premier ministre de la République de Côte d'Ivoire, qui aurait bien voulu vous livrer en personne ce message, mais pour des contraintes de calendrier, il m'a instruit de représenter à cette prestigieuse tribune. Je suis très heureux de participer aujourd'hui par vidéoconférence à la 7e édition du Forum mondial sur l'investissement, organisé par la CNUSET et réunissant les leaders mondiaux et la communauté internationale de l'investissement et du développement. Son Excellence, Monsieur le Premier ministre, chef du gouvernement, s'honore de l'invitation que vous lui avez adressée et vous exprime par ma voix les remerciements et les vives félicitations de son Excellence, Monsieur Alassane Ouattara, président de la République de Côte d'Ivoire. Mon propos va s'articuler autour de 3 principaux axes. La problématique de l'investissement et du développement durable, les réformes engagées et leur impact sur l'environnement global de l'investissement en Côte d'Ivoire, et enfin, nous allons parler de quelques opportunités d'investissement en Côte d'Ivoire. En ce qui concerne la problématique de l'investissement et du développement durable, il faut dire qu'en 2019, la CNUSET a répondu favorablement à l'appel du gouvernement dans l'analyse diagnostique de l'écosystème de l'investissement de la Côte d'Ivoire. Cette initiative a permis à mon pays de disposer d'un rapport d'examen de politique d'investissement assorti d'un ensemble de recommandations cohérentes et rationnelles. Je voudrais donc saisir ici l'occasion pour remercier Madame la secrétaire générale et vous exprimer tous nos vifs remerciements pour cette grande disponibilité. Mesdames et messieurs, distingués participants, dans la perspective de l'accélération de la transformation structurelle de son économie, la Côte d'Ivoire a fait de l'investissement public et privé une composante fondamentale dans sa politique économique. En effet, les performances économiques réalisées par le pays en 2012 et 2019, avec une croissance du PIB moyen de 8%, ont été portées par d'importants investissements, d'où un taux d'investissement de 22% en 2019 et qui est projeté à 32% en 2025. Pour y parvenir, la Côte d'Ivoire a engagé un ensemble de réformes relatives au climat des affaires, au renforcement de la compétitivité de l'économie, à travers l'accroissement des flux d'investissement dans tous les secteurs capitalistiques, et ce, à fort taux d'emploi durable, afin d'avoir une mutation profonde de l'économie ivoirienne. Globalement, la Côte d'Ivoire est dans le processus de mise en œuvre de son plan national de développement 2021-2025, qui décline des stratégies pour renforcer l'investissement et le secteur privé comme moteur de la transformation économique et de la croissance inclusive, afin de hisser la Côte d'Ivoire à l'horizon 2030 au rang des pays à revenus intermédiaires de la tranche supérieure. Cette dynamique de l'économie ivoirienne passe par la mise en œuvre d'une politique industrielle efficace, favorable au développement des chaînes de valeur durables, intégrant la dimension technologique et aussi écologique. À ce stade de mon propos, il importe d'indiquer que la croissance économique recherchée dans tous les pays du globe se trouve menacée par les bouleversements environnementaux qui proviennent de l'impact des activités quotidiennes insuffisamment régulées. C'est pourquoi la problématique de l'investissement et du développement durable mérite toute notre attention à cette tribune de la World Investment Forum de la CNUSET. En effet, la prise en compte du développement durable dans l'écosystème de l'investissement est une priorité pour la Côte d'Ivoire. Les mesures de politique visant l'attraction de l'investissement privé intègrent la dimension de la promotion et de la sauvegarde de la biodiversité. Plusieurs organismes en Côte d'Ivoire, dont je citerai quelques-uns, l'Agence nationale de l'environnement, l'AN2, l'Office ivoirien des parcs et de réserves, interviennent dans les régulations des enjeux écologiques, notamment dans la prise en compte des considérations environnementales dans l'exécution des projets et programmes d'investissement durable, à travers des actions telles que la mise en œuvre des évaluations environnementales en Côte d'Ivoire et par échange avec la Chambre ivoirienne des experts en évaluation environnementale. Il en est de même qu'aujourd'hui, nous luttons contre l'orpaillage dans les parcs, pour ne citer que donc ces exemples. Je suis donc heureux en ce moment précis que mon pays participe à une réflexion globale à l'initiative de la CNUSET sur les enjeux environnementaux et sociaux qui suscitent la dimension de l'investissement. À cet effet, je demande que les accords internationaux d'investissement soient renforcés, notamment en termes de développement durable, car la Côte d'Ivoire s'inscrit absolument dans cette démarche. Par ailleurs, il s'est résolument engagé dans une démarche d'amélioration de son climat des affaires. Mesdames et messieurs, au-delà participants, en ce qui concerne les réformes engagées et leur impact sur l'environnement global de l'investissement en Côte d'Ivoire, permettez-moi de vous réitérer encore mes remerciements pour avoir marqué un accord en notre demande 2019 pour l'examen de la politique d'investissement de la Côte d'Ivoire. En effet, la Côte d'Ivoire a fait du secteur privé le pilier de sa croissance économique et entend attirer les investissements nécessaires à la soutenabilité de son développement pour faire face aux nombreux défis de sa marche vers le progrès. Le rapport d'examen de politique d'investissement de la Côte d'Ivoire est un excellent document technique qui a identifié dans son diagnostic les obstacles réglementaires qui entravent le potentiel des entreprises et leurs perspectives d'évolution. Il s'agit notamment des dispositions institutionnelles et structurelles inadéquates en matière de cadre juridique, en matière d'investissement direct étranger, de création d'entreprises, d'accès aux fonciers, de fiscalité, de travail, de concurrence, de propriété intellectuelle, d'environnement, de gouvernance et de compétitivité globale. Entendez infrastructures, ressources humaines et entrepreneuriat. Nonobstant ces défis, la Côte d'Ivoire a fait des progrès encourageants en matière de réformes visant l'attractivité du pays auprès des investisseurs internationaux. Les récentes réformes engagées par mon pays porte sur un ensemble de mesures structurelles et institutionnelles non exhaustives en adéquation avec les recommandations formulées par le rapport d'examen de politique d'investissement de la Côte d'Ivoire. Au titre du renforcement du cadre juridique et international de l'investissement, la Côte d'Ivoire a initié de nombreuses réformes, notamment la création d'un tribunal de commerce d'Abidjan. À ce jour, il enregistre de réelles performances liées au délai moyen de traitement et au taux de résolution des affaires. Dans cette même optique, il faut noter la création et l'opérationnalisation depuis 2018 de la Cour d'appel du commerce d'Abidjan. Cette Cour poursuit son dynamisme et son efficacité quant aux nombreuses affaires traitées et aux décisions rendues grâce notamment au renforcement de son cadre technique opérationnel. En outre, la Côte d'Ivoire a adopté une loi instituant la création des bureaux d'information de crédit qui contribuent à améliorer la qualité du portefeuille des banques. En matière de licences et de permis d'affaires, les réformes se poursuivent pour rationaliser leur existence en rapport avec les objectifs de développement économique de la Côte d'Ivoire. Concernant l'amélioration de l'efficacité du cadre juridique opérationnel des investissements, l'État de Côte d'Ivoire a consolidé son dispositif technique du guichet uni de création d'entreprise, permettant d'obtenir des résultats pertinents, notamment en termes de coûts pour les petites et moyennes entreprises. En outre, l'État envisage de développer des services du CPC à l'échelle nationale et en particulier dans les zones économiques spécialisées. Pour ce qui relève du renforcement des piliers de compétitivité de l'économie nationale, le gouvernement ivoirien a accordé une part importante à cette problématique en procédant à la consolidation des plateaux techniques du guichet unique de permis de construire pour accroître son efficacité et son efficience, permettant ainsi de réduire les délais de délivrance des actes administratifs et d'impulser une hausse du nombre de permis de construire délivrés aux investisseurs. Au même titre, le guichet unique du commerce extérieur a fortement contribué à réduire les coûts, les délais et à simplifier la procédure des opérations d'importation et d'exportation. Le gouvernement a adopté des mesures de réduction substantielle du droit d'enregistrement en matière de transfert de propriété, ainsi que le lancement de la plateforme e-impôt de déclaration de paiement des impôts pour les petites et moyennes entreprises en vue d'accroître les contributions à la croissance économique globale. Enfin, du point de vue de la stratégie de développement des investissements, l'adoption du nouveau Code des investissements 2018 et des mesures complémentaires liées notamment à la pandémie de la COVID-19 et aux impératifs sectoriels spécifiques ont permis de maintenir un niveau intéressant d'activité des flux d'investissement directs étrangers à destination de la Côte d'Ivoire. La création et la mise en œuvre du portail unique du service à l'investisseur, le 225invest.ci, ainsi que le lancement de la mise en service de création en ligne des entreprises avec la génération d'identifiants uniques concourt à la rationalisation de l'écosystème de l'investissement en Côte d'Ivoire. Madame la secrétaire générale, Monsieur le directeur de la division des investissements, Mesdames et Messieurs, honorables participants, il convient de faire remarquer que toutes ces initiatives se justifient par les nombreuses opportunités que regorge la Côte d'Ivoire. Les investissements privés attendus se chiffrent à plus de 67 milliards d'euros sur les 4 prochaines années et permettront notamment à la Côte d'Ivoire de réaliser un taux de croissance moyen du PIB de 7% de 2021 à 2025 et de créer 5 millions d'emplois durables et à réduire aussi le taux de pauvreté de 39% à 30% en 2025. En matière d'opportunités d'investissement, la Côte d'Ivoire dispose d'un portefeuille diversifié de projets d'investissement tant privé qu'en partenariat public-privé. Les opportunités qu'offre aujourd'hui notre pays sont principalement dans les secteurs de la santé, de l'énergie, des mines, du tourisme, des infrastructures, de l'agro-industrie, du transport. Il convient à ce niveau donc que je puisse donner quelques éléments en ce qui concerne certains secteurs. Dans le domaine énergétique, le pays dispose aujourd'hui d'un potentiel important comparativement aux autres pays. La sous-région, par exemple, elle dispose de 40 millions de tonnes par an de déchets agricoles utilisables comme biomasse. À ce titre, les projets relatifs au développement durable concernent notamment la construction de centrales hydroélectriques et c'est de la biomasse utilisant le palmier à huile, le cacao, le café et tous les autres produits dont on a parlé ci-dessus. S'agissant de l'économie numérique, les opportunités s'articulent autour de la modernisation de l'administration, le e-service, la transformation digitale de l'économie, le fintech, et e-agriculture, e-tourisme. Enfin, dans le secteur de la santé, les besoins à couvrir sont importants. Il s'agit de la construction ou de réhabilitation de cliniques en région, de l'ouverture de centres spécialisés en cardiologie, en hémodialyse, de transfusion sanguine, et j'en passe. Le gouvernement ivoirien est conscient du rôle très important que le secteur privé doit jouer dans la réalisation de ses objectifs de développement. C'est dans cette optique que le PND, entendu le Plan national de développement 2021-2025, qui vient d'être adopté, consacre une place de choix du secteur privé avec une contribution à hauteur de 74% de l'investissement. L'ambition affichée par le gouvernement est d'une part d'accélérer la transformation structurelle de l'économie à travers l'industrialisation dans les secteurs clés que sont l'agriculture, la santé, le tourisme, l'hôtellerie. Et d'autre part, d'augmenter le taux de croissance de 2% en 2020 à 9% en 2025. De doubler le PIB par habitant passant de 1 738 $ par tête d'habitant en 2020 à 2 240 $ par tête d'habitant en 2025. Le gouvernement, à travers son département ministériel, œuvrera pour créer donc l'environnement propice pour pouvoir lever les contraintes que le rapport d'examen de politique d'investissement a eu à mettre en œuvre. C'est fort de cet engagement que je voudrais réitérer toute ma reconnaissance et émettre le vœu que les autorités de la conférence nationale, la conférence des Nations Unies pour le commerce et le développement, soutiennent la Côte d'Ivoire dans son élan de modernisation de l'économie, de l'investissement et du développement du secteur privé. Je vous remercie.
Monsieur le ministre, je vous remercie très sincèrement pour votre intervention. Ça a été un plaisir de travailler avec vous sur l'examen de la politique d'investissement. Et comme mon collègue l'a mentionné, nous réitérons notre engagement à poursuivre le chemin avec vous. Sans plus attendre, j'ai le plaisir d'inviter Madame Solange Amichia à nous dire quelques mots. Madame Amichia est la nouvelle directrice générale du Centre de promotion des investissements en Côte d'Ivoire, le CEPICI. Madame Amichia, je vous cède la parole. Votre micro n'est pas allumé.
Oui, ça va? Vous m'entendez?
Voilà, vous êtes avec nous, on vous entend bien. Bienvenue. On vous laisse dire quelques mots. Merci.
Oui, merci. Alors, dans le cadre des objectifs de développement durable de la Côte d'Ivoire, nous avions 17 objectifs. Et dans ce cadre-là, je vais parler un tout petit peu de ce qu'on a fait pour introduire le respect des ODD dans le nouveau plan national de développement. Il faut savoir qu'on a deux volets, en fait, dans cet aspect-là. On a aussi introduit la notion d'ODD, des objectifs de développement durable, dans notre code des investissements qui a été revu en 2018. Et ce code des investissements a introduit l'aspect de la régionalisation, a aussi introduit l'aspect des respects du droit de travail, du respect aussi des normes de travail. Et surtout, ce qui était important pour nous, c'était d'assurer des emplois durables. Parce que, comme vous le savez, on a un gros souci dans nos sociétés qui sont très jeunes, surtout en Côte d'Ivoire. On a une pression sur l'emploi qui est très forte. Il y a près de 120 000 jeunes qui sortent sur le milieu du travail chaque année. Et donc, le secteur privé doit absorber une grosse partie de ces jeunes, sachant que la fonction publique ne peut absorber que très, très peu. C'est pour ça que ce plan national de développement national qui a été développé 2021-2025 a vraiment mis l'accent sur développer des opportunités d'investissement dans le respect justement de ces obligations de développement durable. Alors, nous aujourd'hui, j'allais dire l'objectif avec ce nouveau code, par exemple, d'investissement qui a été développé, c'est qu'on voudrait s'assurer que les entreprises sont des entreprises citoyennes, qu'elles payent leurs impôts, qu'elles respectent l'environnement. Et donc, dans ce cadre-là, dans le code des investissements, on a intégré cette notion d'impact, d'étude d'impact environnemental. On l'avait déjà en 2012. Maintenant, là, en 2018, on allait un peu plus loin. On a introduit des contrôles a posteriori qui sont beaucoup plus importants et beaucoup plus rationalisés qu'avant, avec à l'appui des pénalités, ce qui n'était pas le cas dans le précédent code. Le deuxième aspect qu'on a rajouté, c'est qu'on souhaite avoir des entreprises qui respectent effectivement le droit du travail et qui permettent aux employés d'avoir un plan de développement personnel à l'intérieur de l'entreprise. Et ça, c'est un élément qui est très important. Dans le Code des investissements 2012 et 2018, vous retrouvez toujours le fait qu'on ne fait pas de différence entre l'investisseur national et l'investisseur étranger, mais on avait aussi l'obligation de mettre à disposition d'un investisseur qui veut développer, par exemple, la transformation des produits locaux, qu'il y a une obligation de mettre à disposition ces produits locaux. Dans le nouveau code, on est allé un peu plus loin. On a donné des incentives, des avantages additionnels pour les industriels ou pour les entreprises dont 80%, si 80% des managers de l'entreprise sont ivoiriens, ils ont 2% de tax break, de crédit d'impôt. Et on souhaite aussi favoriser les partenariats, donc avec les entreprises locales, ce qui va permettre de créer des champions locaux à terme. Et donc, dans ce cadre-là, nous proposons aussi 2% de crédit d'impôt pour les entreprises qui prendraient des partenaires locaux à hauteur de 20% de leur part de marché. Et le dernier point, si je me souviens bien, le dernier point, c'était tout ce qui concerne la RSE. Et donc, s'assurer qu'aujourd'hui, avant, c'était marqué que les entreprises devaient observer, dans le cadre de leurs activités, la RSE. Mais on ne l'a pas quantifié et on n'a pas eu des indicateurs. Aujourd'hui, on l'a quantifié et on a mis des indicateurs qui permettent après, derrière, de faire des suivi-évaluations. Donc, si vous voulez, en gros, c'est un peu ce que je voulais vous dire sur les ODD et l'environnement des affaires, mais surtout le nouveau code des investissements qu'on a intégré au CPC. Maintenant, si vous avez des questions spécifiques, je pourrais répondre.
Madame Amichia, je vous remercie beaucoup pour votre intervention et la précision sur certains des éléments du code d'investissement et du traitement des investisseurs. Alors, les présentations qu'on vient d'entendre ont mis en évidence les perspectives d'un point de vue gouvernemental. J'aimerais maintenant inviter voir la perspective au niveau des partenaires au développement et du secteur privé. So I would like to invite Mr. Fawzi Souma, who is Minister Counselor from the Permanent Delegation of the African Union to the United Nations and other international organizations in Geneva, to tell us a few words. Mr. Zuma, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madame, for giving me the floor. Excellence, Monsieur Emmanuel Ismaël Essis, ministre de la Promotion de l'Investissement et du Développement du secteur privé en Côte d'Ivoire. Madame Solange Amichia, directrice générale du Centre de promotion de l'investissement en Côte d'Ivoire. Monsieur Georges Biber, le chef de la branche de la politique d'investissement à la CNICED. Mesdames et messieurs, Permettez-moi de souhaiter tout d'abord à la délégation de haut niveau de la Côte d'Ivoire, conduite par son Excellence, Monsieur le ministre, représentant Monsieur le Premier ministre. Nous sommes convaincus que l'examen de la politique d'investissement de la Côte d'Ivoire permettra de tirer les leçons du passé et de s'engager dans les réformes de la politique nationale d'investissement pour établir un secteur privé fort et compétitif qui peut contribuer à l'atténuation de la pauvreté, à l'amélioration de la qualité de vie des Ivoiriens et à aider les pays à atteindre les objectifs des agendas 2030 des Nations Unies et 2063 de l'Union africaine. Le plan de développement de la Côte d'Ivoire reconnaît clairement le rôle des investissements, notamment les investissements étrangers directs, peuvent jouer pour atteindre ces objectifs. Le rapport présenté par la CNICED sur l'examen de la politique d'investissement de la Côte d'Ivoire a pour objectif de formuler des orientations de politique économique relatives à l'investissement. Comme le souligne le dit rapport, la Côte d'Ivoire s'est engagée depuis 2012 sur une trajectoire de croissance robuste qui s'est maintenue au-delà de l'effet de rebond type d'une situation de post-conflit. Depuis 2012, le pays a enregistré un taux de croissance annuel moyen du produit intérieur brut de 8%. Au cours de cette période, les investissements étrangers directs ont augmenté de manière significative. Les flux entrants de l'UID ont plus que doublé depuis 2012 et contribuent à la diversification. Présent dans une gamme variée d'activités, incluant le secteur industriel, plusieurs groupes étrangers, investisseurs historiques ou nouvellement implantés, opèrent des filières de vente et de production. La capitale économique Abidjan a retrouvé son dynamisme et se positionne désormais comme plaque tournante de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Le rapport souligne également qu'il existe encore des contraintes liées au faible niveau des flux étrangers d'UID. En effet, malgré un taux de croissance supérieur à celui du CPR, bien qu'on hausse la performance de la Côte d'Ivoire, en termes de flux d'UID par habitant, se situe au-dessous de la moyenne de la communauté économique des États de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Le stock d'UID représentait un peu moins d'un quart du PIB en 2018, comparé à une moyenne de 38% en Afrique et 30% en Afrique de l'Ouest. En effet, des lacunes dans l'environnement des affaires entravent l'évolution des UID, à la fois en termes de quantité, valeur ajoutée et dispersion géographique. Les autorités gouvernementales ivoiriennes, conscientes des défis, ont adopté plusieurs mesures pour améliorer le climat des affaires et les opportunités d'investissement qu'offre le pays. En effet, le plan national de développement 2016-2020 visant l'amélioration de l'environnement des affaires et le développement du secteur privé. Il mise à cet effet sur la simplification et dématérialisation des services gouvernementaux pour rendre plus efficaces et transparents. Plusieurs mesures ont déjà été mises en œuvre, notamment en matière de création d'entreprises. Dans la même perspective, de nouvelles institutions ont été créées, comme le tribunal du commerce et le cour d'appel du commerce d'Abidjan. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, la Côte d'Ivoire, membre de l'Union africaine, joue un rôle prépondérant dans la création de la zone de libre-échange continentale ZLACF africaine, qui prélude au marché commun africain. En effet, la Côte d'Ivoire est parmi les premiers pays qui ont déposé son instrument de ratification de la ZLACF en 2018. La création de cette zone continentale de libre-échange, qui est un projet phare de l'Union africaine de l'agenda 2063 et de son premier plan décennal, dont 54 des 55 États membres de l'Union africaine avaient signé l'accord, 42 États l'ont ratifié et 38 États ont déposé leur instrument de ratification à la date d'aujourd'hui. Comme pour de nombreux accords commerciaux, ce grand projet continental rendra le continent et la Côte d'Ivoire un pôle dominant d'attraction des investissements étrangers directs. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, en conclusion, je voudrais formuler les vœux pour que les résultats de cette réunion soient à la hauteur des attentes du gouvernement et du peuple de la Côte d'Ivoire. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Monsieur Zuma, je vous remercie beaucoup pour votre intervention. I am now pleased to invite Mr. Hans-Peter Werder, President and founder of HPW AG, a company he established in 1997. Through this company, he has accumulated a wealth of knowledge and expertise of the African market. And in April 2021, in the midst of the pandemic, the company inaugurated HPW Fresh and Dry Côte d'Ivoire. With the motto, processing tropical fruit where it grows, because local production allows premium quality, Mr. Werder, I'm sure you will share with us invaluable insights of operating a business in Côte d'Ivoire. Mr. Werder, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Cher Excellence, Monsieur Esmail Emmanuel Essis, cher audience, thank you very much for giving me some minutes here to talk about our operation in Côte d'Ivoire. Let me introduce our company a little bit more. And yes, we're a responsible producer of the world's finest snacks. This is our focus. And we do that with 2 dried fruit factories and yes, process over 30,000 tons of fresh pineapples, mango, and coconut procured in West Africa. We focus on quality, food safety, innovation, and our sustainable business model. Here in the Western world, we have 3 sales offices. One here in Switzerland, taking care of Europe, then one in the Northern Europe, taking care of East and Northern Europe, and then since this summer, an office in the US, located in Maryland, to take care of the very challenging US market. One of the factories located in Ghana, there we employ 1,300 people, and the factory is active since 2011. The other factory is located in the Ivory Coast, in the Bonoa region. And yes, we inaugurated the factory this year, but actually it is active since June 2020. And in Bonoa, we employ about 450 people. Let's talk about our experience in Côte d'Ivoire. Overall, we have made a real great experience and we're on good ways. That's for us, this is very good news. It's not common that you do already well in the 2nd year after opening a factory. There are 2 points I would like to mention specifically. I think we met a workforce who is ready to work and put in an extra effort. We are actually very happy with our workers and staff up to the supervisor level. We started with very low output in 2020, but have very much improved since. We put a lot of extensive training and capacity building in place. Workforce and supervisors are highly motivated. So it's a great achievement, and we're really thankful that we came to this level within such a short period of time. In Ghana, there is no secret, we sometimes struggle with the road conditions. We struggle with the power supply, have invested quite a lot, substantial part in renewable energy to overcome this problem. And we feared that we will see the same in Côte d'Ivoire. Being now in business for 18 months, we must say that this worry was not rectified at all. Streets are in good condition, from the very north where we source our mango to the south where we source pineapple and coconut. So it's no problem at all, and we really appreciate these good road conditions. It's really important for us to have such a good connection to our growers in the country. And of course, and that's what is also a good experience, the power supply remains stable during this 18 months. That's a great achievement, and it makes a production far more easy. We are able to focus on our specific challenges and now don't need to worry too much about the infrastructure. So we highly appreciate this support. maybe we struggled very much at the beginning with the formalities for importation, the land acquisition, and the building permit. It was a really challenge, and it was really costly. So yes, that was a learning and some of experience. So we're not yet there where we can talk about expansion, but the request is there. The demand will be also there. It's just a question, how do we solve that when it comes to this very moment, talking about expansion and all these formalities for the importation and of equipment and machines. But maybe it will be more easy when we have a little bit more experience and when we have a better understanding of the local situation. Yes, I think these are the 3 points I want to mention. I don't want to make this any longer. But yes, as I said in the very beginning, overall, it's a success. It's a success story. And please excuse. And yes, we want to continue our path in the Ivory Coast. Thank you very much for listening to me. And yes, thanks.
Mr. Werder, thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure to hear good experiences in countries and positive messages on the investment environment. Usually we focus a lot on the challenges. So it's indeed a great pleasure to hear that you didn't face major challenges in terms of the infrastructure. We usually struggle with the roads and the electricity. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Vice Minister from Ecuador, Mrs. Lorena Conens, who has just joined us. Maybe I give a minute, peut-être que je donne une minute à monsieur, à son Excellence, Monsieur le Ministre, pour répondre aux commentaires qui ont été faits, notamment les commentaires positifs du secteur privé, avant d'ouvrir le segment pour l'Équateur.
Merci beaucoup. Écoutez, vous voyez, ça fait plaisir de voir des commentaires pareils qui sont faits. Je crois que c'est l'effort qui a été vraiment établi par le CPC pour accompagner vraiment les investisseurs privés qui viennent en Côte d'Ivoire. Et je lance un appel donc à ceux-là. Quand ils viennent en Côte d'Ivoire, leur point de chute, c'est le CPC. Et le CPC va les conduire dans tout le processus de recherche d'informations, d'installation et même après même l'aftercare. Je crois que c'est le moment de dire. Je remercie aussi M. Zouma pour tous les commentaires qu'il a fait au niveau de la Côte d'Ivoire. Et je peux vous assurer que nous reviendrons encore avec vous pour avoir votre assistance, pour nous permettre donc de pouvoir performer encore davantage l'investissement privé. Merci encore à Madame la Secrétaire Générale. Merci à toute votre équipe pour le bon travail que vous faites. Merci beaucoup.
Excellence, Monsieur le Ministre, je vous remercie. Donc, sans plus attendre, I will open the second segment of this session dedicated to Ecuador. As I said, the Vice Minister, Mrs. Lorena Conens, just joined us. Welcome. But we will hear first from the Minister. Quisiera invitar a Su Excelencia, Dr. Julio José Prado Lucio Paredes, Ministro de Producción, Comercio Exterior, Inversiones y Pesca del Ecuador, a tomar la palabra. Excelencia, tiene usted la palabra.
I am Julio José Prado, Ecuador's Minister of Production, Foreign Trade, Investments and Fisheries. From the first day when President Lasso took office in May 2021, Ecuador has sent a clear message internationally. We need more Ecuador in the world and more world in Ecuador. This involves not only promoting, attracting and maintaining national and foreign direct investment, but reinforcing trade ties with the world and deepening the social and scientific cooperation we maintain with more than a dozen countries. As part of our effort to strengthen Ecuador's business climate, President Lasso, by executive decree, has declared the investment promotion policy a national priority to be carried out through good regulatory practices and the simplification, efficiency and transparency of processes. Ecuador is also working relentlessly on improving the industrial competitiveness through a national competitiveness strategy that includes the implementation of cluster initiatives for work in all productive sectors. Since August 2018, Ecuador has offered investor fiscal incentives established within the law, which are the result of discussion sessions with chambers of commerce and industries. Through this law, investors are waived certain tributes and tariffs, such as the income tax, for up to 12 years. In this regard, companies that sign a voluntary investment contract with the state will be exempted from the payment of certain tributes and tariffs when they commit to implementing projects throughout the country and generating new jobs. In this way, we strive to accomplish Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, such as decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, reduction of inequality, among others. Furthermore, our National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 is articulated within the SDGs. Since this law came into force, 174 investment contracts have been signed for a total of $3.9 billion, creating over 17,000 new jobs. Finally, we invite you to join us for the investment summits, which will take place in Quito, Ecuador on the 19th and 18th of November 2021, where our investment portfolio will be showcased on-site and virtually, which will include specialized forums and high-level business roundtables. Without further ado, we invite you to invest in Ecuador, to visit our country, and to contact our 24 trade offices around the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Excellency, for this inspiring word. Ahora quisiera invitar a Su Excelencia, Señora Lorena Conenst, Viceministra de Exportaciones y Promoción de Inversiones del Ecuador. Excelencia, usted tiene la palabra.
Thank you very much, Chantal. On behalf of the Vice Ministry of Export and Investment Promotion, I would like to thank you for the invitation today. It is a real honor to me to speak to you this morning about the investment opportunities that our country has to offer. Está saliendo la cámara. Has to offer. I have a presentation today that I would like to present to you today. Okay. We changed government almost 5 months ago. Guillermo Lasso is now the President of the Republic of Ecuador. This change of government came with a real change in the vision of the country. Today, Ecuador is a country open for international trade, commercial agreements, and especially it is open to investments. This is why we say that Ecuador is open for business. Next. Ecuador is a small country in South America with less than 300,000 square kilometers, but it is also at the center of great opportunities. To give you some, please. To give you some general information, our capital is Quito. We have the US dollar as our local currency, and we have 17.5 million people. Next. As you can see in the world map, Ecuador is strategically located for global trade. The equator line crosses our capital city, Quito. We are in the middle of the world, which gives us a competitive advantage for trade, especially right now with all the high freight costs. We have direct access to the Pacific Ocean, and we are a few miles away from the Panama Canal to the Atlantic Ocean. Next. Here are some economic indicators. We have a GDP per capita of 5,316, an unemployment rate of 5.7%, which is among the lowest in the region, and an annual inflation rate of minus 0.83% as of March 2021, the second lowest in the region. And our average GDP growth in the last 10 years has been higher than the average in Latin America and the Caribbean. Next. We also have a very competitive infrastructure. Among 17 countries in Latin America and in the Caribbean, we are on the second place in quality of highways. We have the third place in quality of transportation infrastructure and the fourth place in quality of port infrastructure. Next. As I said at the beginning, the new government has a new vision of openness to the world. We want to sign commercial agreements with the 10 biggest economies in the next 4 years. Right now, we are ending trade negotiations with Mexico, which hopefully will finish in December this year. The next step for the first months of next year will be to be part of the Pacific Alliance. We're also on the initial phase of negotiations with the United States, Canada, Russia, India, Panama, and China. Our neighbor countries have agreements with all main economies. 70 to 90% of their exports are covered by commercial agreements, while only 40% of our products are covered by these agreements. We want to gain back all these years lost and give Ecuadorian products the same possibilities as Colombian, Peruvian, and Chilean products. Next. Guillermo Lazo's government had a very successful vaccination result. Together with the private sector as an ally, we vaccinated 9 million people in 100 days of government. This was a very high goal and we fulfilled it successfully. This was phase 1, save lives. Now we are at the recovery phase, where all our economic sectors are reactivating. Their sales are going higher and new employments are being created. Next. So, which have been the actions taken after these first 100 days of government? First of all, we're working in an economic and labor reform that not only will include taxes, these changes will improve the conditions of the investment environment. Our main goal is to create more job opportunities to our people. Through the consolidation of 20 clusters, we are building a competitive agenda that will benefit the supply productive chain. We will have them ready by the end of this year. And as I said before, we are committed in signing new trade agreements with many countries of the world. And finally, we're implementing mechanisms such as one-stop investment shop that will facilitate processes and will speed up procedures for international investors. Next. This was a very important achievement we had in the ministry before the 100 days of government, the Decree 68. This decree declares as a priority a public policy on the facilitation of trade and production, the simplification of procedures, and the competitive agenda. This public policy was constructed with a common goal: decrease costs for our national industry so they can compete internationally. Next. When we talk about foreign direct investment flows in Ecuador, we see it has been very low. In the last years, the average we have received in foreign investments have been less than 1,000 million per year, and almost half of it have been in the mining sector. Our main country investors are Spain, the Netherlands, Canada, USA, and China. Next. And if we compare it with the rest of the countries in the region, we can see that Ecuador has been one of the least countries to receive foreign investment flows. For example, during the past 4 years, while Colombia received $61 million and Peru received $31 million in foreign investments, Ecuador only received less than $5,000 million. Next. So the question is, why investing in Ecuador is a good business? We have a national policy to attract private investment. The 3 main strategic objects are: first, to improve an Ecuadorian business climate that facilitates foreign and national private investments; to establish a strategy for the promotion, attraction, and maintenance of investments and reinvestments; and finally, to strengthen productive capacities in the investment field. Next. So why invest in Ecuador? First of all, we have a dollarized economy. This means low inflation rates, but also the security that the investments you make will not be affected by currency devaluation. This gives investors security in time. We have a political and fiscal stability. As I said before, we're one of the regions with best infrastrucures. We have good connectivity, short distance between our 4 regions. We have highly qualified human talent. We have a lot of reserves in mining, hydrocarbons, agriculture, aquaculture, and so on. We are really a very rich country in natural resources. And last but not least, we have very attractive taxation system. Next. Now, I would like to talk to you about the new actions of the government during the last 5 months. The most important thing we are working is towards the best incentive that a country can offer to investors, a stable legal framework that guarantees the investor's security. We're confident that what an investor looks when putting his money in a country is confidence. Confidence that the rules will not be changed and that the country and that the security of the investment will not depend on the government of the moment, especially in South America, where we know we have very unstable governments. We're also working in tax incentives through investment contracts that will give investors the stability they need. Next. These are the incentives we have for the investment contracts. For all new and productive investments in the city of Guayaquil and Quito, investors will have 8 years income tax exemptions. And for investments being made outside these 2 cities, 12 years. With the signing of the contracts, investors will also have stability on the incentives during the years of the contract. Foreign exchange outflow tax exceptions, which is 5%, for payments made abroad to the import of capital goods and raw materials, and for dividends distributed to national or foreign companies domiciled in Ecuador. National and international arbitration and tax stability for investments over $100 million, and the possibility of requesting tariff exemptions. All of these are important tax incentives associated with the investment contract. The main requirement is to invest $1 million in 4 years and to generate jobs. Next. Since the beginning of the government, with this new investment climate, we have seen an increased demand for these contracts. In the past 5 months, we have approved 25 investment contracts. That means 1,100 million in investment and will create 3,176 jobs. These contracts have been signed in sectors such as mining, infrastructure, tourism, energy, agro-industry, and so on. We have 43 more investment contracts in process that hopefully will be approved by the end of the year. Next. Since the creation of the law in 2018, there have been a total of 174 contracts approved, which have meant 3,937 million in investment and 14,000 more jobs. It has been really successful. Next. These are the special economic development zones. We have 5 in the country, which are defined as the limited geographical areas of the national territory and customs destinations to attract investment through tax incentives, financial and custom benefits. In these specific zones, investors will also have for 10 years exemptions in income, foreign exchange, outflow tax, and exemptions on import tariffs. We are promoting these zones to attract new investments and generate more quality jobs. Next. We also have the figure of public-private partnerships, PPPs. This consists of a legal financial scheme agreed between a public institution and a private entity for the provision of goods, works, or services for central and local governments. Once the project is approved, it will benefit from the incentives established by the law, according to the provisions of the agreement entered by the parties. Right now, the government wants the private sector to be the main source of investments. So this figure is a very good option to finance public projects. Next. 2 months ago, the Untitled Business and Investment Division issued the report of the Investment Policy Review for Ecuador 2021, and the results were very positive. Next. We have a very extensive investment portfolio for private and public projects. The main sectors of these projects are in aquaculture, infrastructure, mining, and energy. We have very important projects, so we invite you to look at them. Next. This is a very important project we have in the ministry, the one-stop shop for investment. This digital platform will contribute to facilitate the process for private investments. This will be a single place where the investor will be able to make all the procedures associated with investments. This includes opening a company, registering employees, getting permissions, paying taxes, opening an account, and so on. Other countries, as Costa Rica, New Zealand, Estonia, and the UK, have already implemented this platform, and the results in attracting foreign investment has been very successful. Next. This one-stop shop for investment is working in eliminating and simplifying unnecessary procedures and digitalizing all processes. Next. These are all the different entities we're working with, including ministries, IRS, banks, different government entities, municipalities, and so on. It will be a very complete work with all of these entities. Next. Before ending this presentation, I would like to take a few moments to invite you to a very special event that will take place next month in Quito. This is the Investment Summit called Ecuador is Open for Business. During this event, we will talk about the investment opportunities that our country has to offer to the world. We will be having conferences in different sectors, such as mining, energy, gender equality, impact investments in public alliances, and so on. We will be also having during these 2 days an investment matchmaking, so the investors will be able to meet with the owners of private and public projects. It will be a perfect moment to come to Ecuador and know firsthand the infinite opportunities that our country has to offer you. Finally, I would like to end this presentation with the words of our dearest President, Guillermo Lasso, who will himself invite you to this big and important event for our country. Next.
Estimados amigos inversionistas y líderes empresariales del mundo, quiero invitarlos a que sean parte de la transformación productiva del Ecuador, en la visión de un país con más oportunidades para todos. Los invito al Foro de Inversiones Ecuador is Open for Business, donde podrán conocer las grandes oportunidades de inversión que tiene nuestro país. El 18 y 19 de noviembre de este año 2021 se llevará a cabo en Quito un gran encuentro que demostrará que estamos listos para recibirlos con los brazos abiertos. Nos encontraremos con inversionistas, empresarios y expertos mundiales en las temáticas más innovadoras relacionadas a inversiones y alianzas público-privadas. Seguimos en el camino de poner más Ecuador en el mundo y de traer más mundo al Ecuador. Contamos con ustedes. Un abrazo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency, for your rich and informative presentation. We will now see a video on investment opportunities in Ecuador, a short video. Thank you.
Es muy probable que tengas un poco de Ecuador a tu alrededor. Estamos en la comida que disfrutas, en el café que te despierta, en las flores que regalas, incluso estamos en la ropa y accesorios que utilizas. Verás, con el paso de cada día hay más de Ecuador en el mundo y esto nos llena de orgullo. Sin embargo, también queremos más mundo en el Ecuador y estamos listos para recibirlo. Iniciamos un nuevo camino con una planificada Estrategia Nacional de Competitividad que incluirá la implementación de iniciativas clúster para un trabajo colaborativo de todos los sectores productivos. La transparencia regirá cada iniciativa. Entregaremos la seguridad jurídica que todo inversionista busca. Vamos a ser un país más rentable para producir, con procesos claros y transparentes. Estamos en el camino correcto. Abrimos nuestras puertas para ser el Ecuador del encuentro, el comercio y las inversiones.
¿Por qué invertir en Ecuador? Por su gente, por su pueblo, porque vemos ganas de progresar, ganas de innovar, mucha gente joven y no tan joven con ganas de vivir bien. Y nuestra compañía hace 58 años que todos los días abrimos nuestros locales con esa intención. No solamente resolver necesidades, sino también resolver expectativas.
Agricominsa realmente estuvo muy motivado en realizar todo el proyecto de inversiones que teníamos y decidimos implementarlo debido a la nueva ley de fomento a la producción e inversiones. Vemos con muy buenos ojos como industriales esta nueva ley y decidimos invertir este mismo año para poder obtener todos los beneficios que esta ley nos presenta.
Thank you very much. We can now move to the section on this segment on comments. And for that, I am very pleased to invite Mr. Francisco Estrazulas from the Inter-American Development Bank to share with us the perspective of a development partner of Ecuador on the investment environment in the country. Francisco, you have the floor.
Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you very much, Chantal, for the introduction. And thank you to Minister Prado and Vice Minister Conans for the invitation to present with them today. Yes, so I work at the Inter-American Development Bank and specifically at the integration and trade sector of the bank. We focus our lending operations on projects that facilitate trade and facilitate investment, and also on operations that focus on trade and investment promotion and investment attraction. So in particularly in this intervention, I'm going to focus on an operation that we're currently implementing in Ecuador together with the Vice Ministry led by Vice Minister Conans, a program that is called the National System for Investment Facilitation and Attraction, and where the main goal of this project is to create the one-stop shop for investors, the electronic single window for investors that Vice Minister Conans was describing. So this is a loan that is being implemented by the Ministry of Production. It's a $13.3 million project, out of which 12 million are provided through an investment loan by the Inter-American Development Bank and 1.3 million coming as a counterpart from the government. It's a project that we began dispersing in March of 2020. The general objective of the operation is to increase investment flows in Ecuador through actions aimed at investment facilitation and investment promotion. In terms of the specific objectives that we're seeking with this project, we're looking on the one hand to reduce the time, to reduce the costs, to reduce the number of procedures and the number of iterations that investors need to have with the different government agencies that they need to interact with in order to either invest or reinvest in Ecuador. And the second objective that we have is to increase the effectiveness of investment attraction and investment promotion actions, meaning increasing or improving the conversion from investment leads identified to actual investments that end up taking place. The ultimate beneficiaries of this operation are both investors from Ecuador and from abroad. We're looking to help companies that are investing for the first time in the country, as well as companies that are reinvesting in the countries. The project is structured around two components. The first component, which is focusing on the simplification of norms and procedures and the development of this single window or this one-stop shop for investors. This first component is structured into three main activities. The first activity, which I'm going to describe, but ended up not being implemented because of COVID, but it's a good practice or an innovative practice that maybe some other countries would be interested in analyzing and exploring as an option. But the first action was to create physical single windows for investors, right? So these would be physical spaces where representatives of the different agencies that the investors need to interact with would be present, and the investor would go to these various windows and do the procedures that they need to do in order to not only create a company or establish a company in the country, but also to obtain all the different approvals and permits that they would need in order to take that created company to their first issuing of to the first sale, to the beginning of their operations. And one of the interesting aspects of these physical single windows was the idea that the process of simplification and optimization of procedures would begin taking place there with the representatives from the different agencies. The idea is that these people would be interacting, they would be identifying redundancies, duplications, and that would be a key input to the process of simplification of the procedures. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we weren't able to do this first activity. But as I said, I wanted to mention it because we think it can be quite effective. This is actually a practice that has already been successful in practice. Actually, the city of Istanbul in Turkey has a physical single window that has worked really well. It also offers plug and play spaces where the investors that are prospecting Istanbul can hold meetings and have access to the internet. And as I said, again, interact with the different agencies that they need to interact in order to set up in the country. The second action within this first component is the actual simplification and optimization of procedures. The idea here is that we will have in these participatory processes representatives from all the agencies that investors need to interact with, and through applying methodologies like Six Sigma, lean manufacturing, facilitators would help these representatives begin simplifying procedures, removing duplications, basically achieving a leaner set of procedures in order to set up an investment in the country, and also begin identifying the types of technology investments and improvements that each of those agencies will need to make in order to digitalize these procedures and integrate into this single window or this one-stop shop that we were talking about. The third activity within this first component is the actual development of the single window. Now, the development of the single window is structured in three main steps. We will be launching before the end of this year the version 1.0 of the single window, which is mostly an informative website. The idea is that it will list all the procedures that need to take place. It will have a database of local companies that could be partners or suppliers for these investors that are prospecting the country. You would have the contact information of all these agencies that they need to interact with, general information about Ecuador as an investment destination and about the priority sectors that the government is promoting. The second phase would include the digitalization of procedures that are cross-cutting, meaning procedures that are applicable to all sectors of the economy. And the third version of the single window would involve also sector-specific procedures in these sectors that have been prioritized by the government, as well as procedures that need to take place with subnational governments, which are key agencies that the investors need to interact with in order to invest in the country. And then the second component, I'm just going to say this very briefly, has to do with institutional strengthening for attraction and promotion. Meaning the idea is to create a mapping of all the government agencies that are currently attracting investment in the country, try to improve the articulation of all these agencies, try to strengthen the skills of the individuals in these agencies that are involved in these attraction and promotion activities, and in that way help contribute to more effective promotion. The second element has to do with the implementation of actions, right? So the organization of business fora, like the Vice Minister mentioned right before, the first fora that is going to be funded with this loan operation is this Ecuador Open for Business event that will take place on November 18 and 19. And then as part of this activity, also we will do some marketing campaigns around the world, promoting different sectors and promoting Ecuador as an investment destination. And finally, within this component too, we are developing or implementing a pretty innovative figure or activity for promoting investment in Latin America, which is the creation of an ombudsperson for investment, right? So this would be a person that has very high level connections within the government and that investors can resort to or can appeal whenever a procedure is blocked or whenever there's something that is preventing them from moving forward. And the objective is that this ombudsperson office will help unlock these barriers that investors have faced. So that's kind of in a nutshell, you know, what this operation is about. I'm going to share very briefly again some lessons learned that I think should be considered by those that are willing to replicate or implement this type of projects in their countries. First of all, is that we need very clear leadership behind this. As I said, in the case of Ecuador, this is involving 37 different government agencies. It's involving subnational governments. So it's very important that through a presidential decree or a similar type of norm, the country establishes who's going to be the champion and the leader of this project. And in a way, it forces or it makes other agencies to sign interinstitutional agreements with this leader and to effectively participate in all the processes of simplification and to effectively, you know, make the technology investments in order to plug themselves into this single window. The second lesson learned that is really critical is to have a strong involvement of the private sector throughout the process of simplification and optimization of procedures, and throughout the process of development of the single window. All the user interface and experience, you know, that the users are going to have on the website must be validated by the final users, which are the investors. And then the final point that I want to make, and this is probably more ethereal and less has to do with motivation. It's really important that the individuals that are involved in this institution that is leading will motivate the representatives of the other agencies, will create a feeling of, you know, belonging to a single team and get everyone excited about being a part of this initiative that is going to unlock further investment, generate jobs, generate growth. This is something that we've seen in practice in the single window that the Vice Minister was mentioning in Costa Rica, where the IDB has been involved, and it's been really amazing what they've achieved in terms of creating that sense of belonging and appropriation on the part of the people in all the different agencies involved. So that's a summary of what we're doing in Ecuador. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch. We'll be glad to share this and other similar experiences.
Francisco, thank you very much. This is indeed digitalization, providing e-services and facilitating access is really key. And I thank you for sharing your experience. We are running very close to the end of this session, but perhaps, Your Excellency, I can ask you a question about, many argue that the COVID-19 pandemic will change the way businesses operate in terms of their production processes, planning of processes, and there is a lot of issues being discussed around the supply chains, which have obviously faced some major challenges. Do you observe some changes taking place in Ecuador in terms of the behavior of businesses with respect to the integration of value chains, global value chain, and how what they've learned from the pandemic, and how you see them going forward.
Thank you very much for the question. I think this is something happening globally, not only in Ecuador. The importance to be integrated with the rest of the world, the importance of the electronic commerce, the high cost of freight transportation right now is also something that is a big problem for exportations, for example. But although the pandemic, Ecuador, for example, has increased its exportations during the last year. And I think that was something that was very important for us, for our economy. And also, that's why we're working so especially in the one-stop shop for investment. This is a digital platform that will help attract investments and goes in hand by hand with this, what's happening internationally. We have to be connected, and I think this project will be very helpful for that.
Excellency, thank you very much. I think we will not have time for many more questions, though the issue raised during the session can indeed raise a lot of questions, and we could continue to discuss the challenges and the opportunities in the two countries in great details. But I will now move to the closing of the session. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the end of this session. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I did, the different presentation and the experience of the two countries that they shared with us on the approach to adapt the investment policy regime to an ever evolving environment. I think the past 2 years have really put us in a situation where we constantly need to adapt, to revise our strategy, and review how we are doing things to face new challenges and to tap on new opportunities that 2 years ago we would have probably not been able to put on the table. My sincere gratitude to the government of Côte d'Ivoire and to the government of Ecuador for their active participation in this 2021 edition of the World Investment Forum. Bonne fin de journée et au plaisir de vous retrouver dans d'autres sessions du forum durant la semaine. Buen fin de día y esperamos vernos en otras sesiones del foro durante la semana.
Merci.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you very much.
Gracias, bye bye.